everybody, and welcome back to the Come Play podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk about all the NFL coach hirings. We're going to talk about the college football national championship game, in which Clemson absolutely dominated Alabama. And we're going to have a discussion on what classifies someone to be a Hall of Famer in sports. And with me today are Bobby and Brendy. So what's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
Hello.
Wow. Bringing it out already. Okay.
I have to.
I'm trying to use that.
The first thing you say.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm a kid on Christmas with this thing. You have no idea.
Yeah. So we have some. The list looks shorter than usual weeks, but whenever we say that, we always still go 2 hours. So we'll see what happens. We are gonna go right into it though. The vacancies in the NFL for the coaches are being filled very quickly, and as we speak, we might be getting, some more news. But we start with Bruce Arians going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after saying he was retiring last year, and he's been in the booth for CBS this year. He goes there. Todd Bowles, who just got fired as the head coach for the Jets, goes there as well as defensive coordinator. Interesting one about this too. What are you laughing at?
I muted my mic so I could fart, and the mic still picked it up.
Okay.
Didn't even hear it. What?
I didn't even hear it either. But we're gonna continue here. Fucking kid, man. The interesting thing about this particular deal is that the Cardinals claimed that they still had the rights of Bruce Arians because he retired. So, in doing that, they got a 6th-round pick from the Buccaneers in exchange for a 7th-round pick. So, that just is a weird little thing. But yeah, a lot of people are kind of confused because like he said, he had retired, but now he's back. Brendy, they're an AFC South team that the Falcons play twice a year. How do you feel about this hiring?
Are you talking about Gary Kubiak? Because he doesn't play he doesn't play in the AFC South.
Are you listening? I said Bruce Arians, you fuck.
I thought you said
What is going on?
So I was literally doing some coaching research, and I had fucking Gary Kubiak open.
All right.
And either way, you said AFC South, which is incorrect. It's NFC South.
I'm sorry, NFC South. Either way, NFC South, Buccaneers, Falcons. The Falcons play the Bucs 2 times a year. How do you feel about the Bruce Arians signing?
I feel great as a Falcons fan because it basically means the Falcons are get 2 wins a year at least.
You got something to look forward to, huh?
Yeah, it's like the Steelers playing the Browns. Like you can guarantee 2 wins and maybe a tie.
I wanna read a tweet from Adam Rank. Bruce Arians, he says, Bruce Arians is your friend who says he's too tired to hang out that night, but then you see him later that evening in the bar downing shots of Fireball.
Sounds about right.
I just
feel great. I just feel great as a Falcons fan. Like it's the perfect
down shot to Fireball.
Yep.
I feel great as a Falcons fan right now. I feel just right this second. I feel great.
It's funny too because I don't know if you guys know, will remember this GIF, but it's been infamous since he did it. It's just him, Bruce Arians, on the sideline, and he just turns his head really quickly and looks shocked.
Well, I'm looking right at it. It's the one. Yeah. It's the first reply under the Adam Rank tweet.
Yeah, that's the only thing I know. Well, not the only thing I know him as, but
I'm just really happy you said GIF. Not GIF.
Oh, it is GIF. It is GIF. Not you GIF. All can fight me.
And yeah, like I said, Todd Bowles goes there as a defensive coordinator. So we have that there, and then the next one, the team that Bruce Arians used to coach, the Arizona Cardinals, get Cliff Kingsbury, who was the coach for former Texas Tech coach, and was the coach for he He was offensive coordinator for USC last year, correct?
Cliff Kingsbury? No, Texas Tech. He was head coach of Texas Tech.
I was gonna say he was head coach.
Yeah, he was head coach of Texas Tech, but I believe he was with USC as an offensive coordinator this year. Kingsbury.
I don't know about that one.
Kingsbury was fired on Texas Tech on November 25th, and then got hired on December 6th as an offensive coordinator for USC.
He must have literally played like hardly any games.
Shows how much I pay attention to Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah,
I've been keeping up with my Kingsbury.
He was their OC for a month, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's the point.
I thought he I remember seeing a picture of him with USC. Personally, I don't know that much about him. Besides, I know his time at Texas Tech, but recently I should say I don't really know much about him. But he's one of those young coaches, 39 years old. We've seen success with that with Sean McVay and Sean McDermott last year with the Bills. Not so much this year, but yeah, I mean, he comes in. He has his quarterback of the future, they think, in Josh Rosen, who they drafted last year. Had a tough year, but you can't really blame him because of the team he has around him and how their offense is being used. But yeah, he comes in and looks to turn that team around. I mean, the good news for him is they have the first overall pick, so they hopefully will take. They might take Nick Bosa or somebody to help that team out and help him out. But yep, he goes there. And then Brendy, the other thing for you that I wanted to point out was, and we mentioned this yesterday when we were talking, Dirk Cutter and Mike Mularkey, returned to the Falcons. And I'll let you talk about this because I know you have your opinions on Dirk Cutter. So go ahead. How do you feel about them returning to the Falcons?
Right. So when I'm going to specifically focus on Dirk Cutter because I feel like that's a little bit more important. When I first heard the hiring of Dirk Cutter, at first I was like a little shocked and then disappointed because I was just like, okay, great. Another shitty hire, offensive coordinator, because basically he had got fired by the Falcons for basically just not being good enough. He was previously the OC from 2012 to 2014, and was let go after a disappointing 6-10 season in 2014. But a point that I heard in the radio that actually kind of changed my mind was the fact that Matt Ryan is probably maybe just past his prime, if not like on the very last tail of it. And that's because that's obviously because of his age, but hiring an offensive coordinator that he's at least got some sort of familiarity with the system, I feel like is actually like really helpful in order for the Falcons to, at the very least, be a playoff contender, if not a Super Bowl contender. So I kind of changed my stance on it. I think it's actually a pretty good hire.
Yeah. I might be in the minority here. I'm actually kind of a fan of Dirk Cutter. I think, his success, or his lack of success, I should say, in Tampa should not be all on him. He had a turnover-prone quarterback and a terrible defense, and in this league, that is a recipe for disaster. Trust me, that it's just terrible. So, yeah, I think I think he's not as bad as people say. But yeah, they come back to the Falcons, and we'll see what impact that has there. We move on. We have a few more here. Titans offensive coordinator, or before he got hired to the Packers, Matt LaFleur goes to the Packers. Like I said, offensive coordinator for the Titans the past year. And the interesting thing about him, which a lot of people kind of like, is that he previously worked under Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, two up and coming coaches in the league, and now he gets his job over in Green Bay. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, another young coach, 39. And he's worked with Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, so he's got some quarterbacks he's worked with. Now he works with maybe arguably one of the best in the league, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I think it's a nice little replacement. I like the young blood coming into the league. Like, I feel like sports in general is like an old man's league, like old white people.
Yeah,
but
it's funny too
Very
because
much is.
it's funny too because you mentioned someone like Kingsbury with the Cardinals. I'm kind of, I guess, making fun of the hire now, and like the whole Josh Rosen thing as well. But then like thinking back to it, there was personally right now I think Josh Rosen is underperforming and is like almost bust status.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's only 1 year, but yeah.
Well, no. So here's my point, though. Someone else I used to think was a bust back in 2016 before he got a new coach, Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Because he played abysmal with Jeff Fisher.
Well, Jeff Fisher. That's another story for another time.
Right, but it's kind of the same thing though. Never really know with these new coaches because now Jared Goff is like probably one of maybe the second most important part of that team.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's always interesting, and like I said, he's got now Aaron Rodgers is starting to get old, but he's one of the best players in the league. Now, interestingly enough, the Packers interviewed 10 candidates altogether, and he was the choice. Some of those including, Josh McDaniels, who said he's staying with the
dude. He's
with the Patriots.
He's staying with the Patriots his whole life.
Yeah, really.
Like I remember back before the Falcons hired Dan Quinn, the Falcons were interviewing him.
They also hired, talked to Brian Flores, Adam Gase, Jim Caldwell, so he was the choice. And yeah, he was a hot commodity out there. I know a lot of guys are looking at him. Last two here, these just came in today as we record on January 9th. Freddie Kitchens gets the reins in Cleveland. He's been promoted and is the 18th full-time coach in team history. That's a lot of coaches and to have had a lot of quarterbacks. But yeah, Kitchens was the worked with Baker Mayfield this season, and Baker had a very good year, so I guess that has something to do with it. But they name him the head coach. I don't know in term. Oh, and Greg Williams is not with the team anymore. That's what I was just wondering because they had him. He was their defensive coordinator, and then got promoted to head coach, but he is no longer there. So, yeah.
Well, I've said it already, and I'll say it again. Wiley is one step closer to being a head coach. Now, everyone, give your best set hut.
Set hut.
Set hut.
There you go.
Set hut.
God.
You gotta have the belly action with it too. Just saying.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Set.
And the last one here that is close to me, and I'm very, very happy about. The Broncos have agreed to terms with Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Bears this past season. Well, for the past little bit, but this season, the defense that they had, he comes over. Now, interesting point here, because a lot of people, when I'm reading the replies to this, and a lot of people are like, well, he's a defensive coordinator and look at all their struggles on offense. Well, the point that people are missing here is that Gary Kubiak has stepped out of retirement. The coach that took them to the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 50, he comes back as the offensive coordinator. Vic Fangio, the head coach, and there is talks that the defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, will be fired at some point today. So if that's true, it's going to be interesting to see who replaces him. maybe somebody that Fangio worked with in Chicago or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it was between him and why am I blanking on his name? The coach for the Steelers starts with an M, not Malarkey. Anyway, yeah, it's between these two, and he gets the job. He's been he's been in the league for a long time, 32 years altogether, with different roles. But I'm very happy to see him in.
You're talking about the offensive lines coach, was it? Maybe.
Yeah,
Mike
for this.
Munchak.
Yeah, Munchak. Yeah, I get Munchak and Malarkey mixed up, and I knew it wasn't Malarkey. That's why I can't remember.
That would be
full of malarkey,
that would
Tyler.
be interesting.
But they were down to those two, and I was praying to God that it was going to be Fangio. They bring him in, and like I said, maybe even the more important part is that Kubiak comes in as the offensive coordinator. So, still a lot of work to be done for the Broncos. Still need a quarterback of the future. Don't even have that.
Dude, Case Keenum, you got him.
Now, I mean, this is something we can talk about when it's closer to the draft, but there are rumors that the Broncos are basically willing to trade anybody, even if that's Von Miller or Emmanuel Sanders or like they're willing to trade anybody, and it looks like they're fishing around to see if they can get their hands on the number one pick to possibly select Dwayne Haskins, who looks like he could be the first quarterback off the board.
Man, I don't know.
Out of
If you have
Ohio
the
State.
number, I feel like if you have the number pick, you got to go. I feel like you got to go either Bosa or Allen.
The thing with the Broncos though is like, well, first of all, if they had Bosa and Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, I don't know if any offensive line could stop that. But I mean, then you're getting to a point where there's just too many people for a limited amount of positions. But
Well, I mean, you said if they traded Miller, I feel like they would almost have to if they wanted the number one pick, or
I don't know.
or like someone like, or maybe I honestly don't even know what it would take. I'm not experienced with that.
I mean, the Cardinals have the first pick, and they have Rosen, so they shouldn't be taking a quarterback. So maybe that they don't have to move up to one, but there is talks that they want to move up. Being a Michigan fan and seeing Dwayne Haskins, I watched Big Ten a lot this year, and Dwayne Haskins, like a lot of people are doubting him, but I gotta tell you, man, like I think he could be I'm not saying the next great one, but I think he could be a really solid quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good. I personally want him. I mean, the other quarterbacks out there would be like Will Grier. Justin Herbert is back in college, so he's not there. That was the other top quarterback.
My boy Drew Lock. Can't forget about him.
So here's the thing, and again, another story, another conversation for another time. But the guys that Drew Lock and what's the Jones, the quarterback for Duke. I can't think of his name. Daniel Jones. Yeah, like these guys are playing against like the shittiest defenses of all time, like in the conference they're in.
No,
not really, but you know what I'm.
Daniel Jones is playing against top tier defenses. For a shitty football team.
Yeah, for a shitty football team, but like this is I don't know. I just sometimes like the quarterbacks that play for like teams like terrible teams who play in terrible conferences, like
the Big 12.
For example, Josh Allen played for Wyoming. I'm not like he looks like he might pan out, but like it's weird to me like taking a guy from a college like that. Like I don't know, it's hard because like you just don't know what they're capable of with the competition they're coming up against.
And that's what the argument was for I think Carson Wentz, because he was from North Dakota State, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, it's panned out for him pretty well.
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't take him. I'm just saying that I'm hesitant. That's all. But either way, I think Dwayne Haskins, to me personally, I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. Now I know the Giants are down there. They're looking for their future QB. They're probably a team that would take him. So if the Broncos do want him or want a quarterback and want to move up, they're going to have to really do some. Give up some pieces. So
according to Walter Football, they do like NFL mock drafts all the time. They have a mock draft of every team so far, assuming like no team trades up. They currently have Haskins going number 6 to the Giants,
Right.
Which I think is extremely unlikely because some team, probably like the Broncos, quite honestly, might. Some team is going to trade up in the top 5 to try to get Haskins.
Yeah, so the Broncos have the 10th pick in the draft.
And Haskins, according to this, is the first quarterback off the board.
Do you have the full list of like the drafts, like who's picking first through fifth?
Yes.
Who's number 2 through 5?
So in order, it's the 49ers, the Jets, the Raiders, the Bucks, and then the Giants.
Interesting. Because the two teams there that you think might take, so you have the 49ers are not going to take a quarterback. They have Jimmy G.
No, they're taking Williams. There's no doubt.
They have the Jets, who have their future quarterback. Now, the Raiders are interesting because they have Derek Carr, but there's been a lot of doubt. They're not really happy with him there. Do they maybe take a quarterback? We'll see. And then the other team was who was the other team? I'm sorry.
49ers, Jets, Raiders, and Bucks.
And the Bucks have said they're bringing back Jameis Winston, but you never know. I mean,
I think Jameis Winston needs slightly better of an offensive line, though. Before he's given a complete knock, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I feel like he's just been given so many chances. Like he's like what 25 now or something. Like he's not he's not old by any means, but he's played in the league for a few years now, and I feel like they're still treating him like a rookie that's not polished yet. So we'll kind of have to see. But yeah, I mean, then the obvious one would be 6, the Giants. So yeah, I mean, if a team wants Haskins, they'd probably have to move up in the top 5. And then and then maybe take him. Like I said, there's other quarterbacks on the board, but right now Haskins, who declared, I believe, yesterday or the day before, looks like the outright number 1. So that will be something we talk about when the draft comes up. I'm sure we will do a show dedicated, or a portion of the show at least dedicated to the NFL draft when that's around the corner.
Yep.
But yeah, for now we will move on. We have a little bit of an update from a heartbreaking story that happened last April. It was all over the news, especially in Canada. The Humboldt Broncos bus crash on April 6, 2018. The truck driver that crashed into the bus just pleaded guilty to 29 counts, 16 counts dangerous driving causing death, and 13 counts of dangerous driving causing bodily harm. The sentencing will begin January 28th, and he has a maximum of 14 years on the sentence. And it's still to this day, it's a very sad thing. A lot of kids lost their life. A lot of kids paralyzed from it. I seen a video, I think it was yesterday, of one of the survivors, skating for the first time with almost like a walker, but for ice. And it was pretty heartwarming because I mean it was just a terrible thing.
16 dead and 13 injured were the stats for that crash.
Yeah, so and then that's where the count comes. I know some of them were coaches and stuff like that as well, and I think even like I think the team announcer might have passed away in that. So yeah, just terrible. And then so yeah, I mean, we'll have to kind of see what happens with that. Like I said, at the end of the month, he'll be sentenced. And then the other thing with Humboldt is they actually just hosted their first game since the bus crash the other night. And yeah, it's just like I said, very sad. It's just crazy. I just remember watching that, and the bus was just absolutely mangled, and quite honestly, and I don't mean to say this in like a bad way, but like I just don't know how anybody even survived that. Like it was terrible. But I'm happy that some of these guys are coming back. I know, like I said, I seen like the one kid skating. So yeah, it was just a tragedy that you hope never happens again. But yeah, I I don't know if I think we started the podcast months after this happened, but
Yeah, this was in April of last year,
yeah,
so
I
we
remember,
didn't start till August.
Yeah, and still to this day sending prayers to the family because that's
There's
crazy.
still a long road for a lot of these kids, man.
Yeah, for sure,
Long road ahead. It's
for
only been
sure.
9 months. It feels like forever ago. It really does. It's
Yeah,
surprising to me that it hasn't even been a year yet.
yeah,
But it took the NHL by storm. I think all the teams were sporting the Humboldt Broncos logo on the back of their back of the
mhm,
helmets, and there were a ton of fundraisers that the NHL did. So go on the NHL for stepping in and giving the kids, still keeping them in the hockey world and still keeping them in their thoughts and doing all those things for them was good. Hockey world definitely sticks together.
yeah,
Through stuff like this, it's
yep.
something you don't see very often, but yeah, it's good to see. And hopefully this court case will give some of the families peace, but there's only so much you can do, especially for the ones who
Yeah.
lost their children in this crash. So,
Um,
yep, prayers as always.
yeah, I will say you kind of hit the nail on the head with that point. The hockey world definitely came together. The NHL did a fantastic job with, supporting and doing what they needed to do. But yeah, you know, I feel this happens a lot, and it's good to see. When tragedy does happen, and people come together, it's a touching thing because people need it, and it was no different in this case. Like I said, the NHL did a fantastic job. But yeah, we will wait and see about the sentencing. And like I said, they just hosted their first game the other night. So like we said, prayers for them. And we will move on. Sucks. It still sucks to this. It's gonna suck forever, but
Yeah, it stings,
uh,
dude. I mean,
it's just terrible. I mean, playing. Not that I ever was traveling on a bus or anything, but playing travel hockey and stuff like that. It hits home, and just anything in the sports world, any tragedy anywhere. But when it comes to this, and it stings. So but yeah, we'll move on here. No easy way to move on after talking about that, but we will try. We move on to a topic that we were gonna have on last week because it broke last week, but just really didn't have any room on the podcast. And now I want to talk about it because I want to open up a bigger point. So Alex Ovechkin, um, one of the best goal scorers of all time, has been to multiple All-Star games, um, and has done a lot for the NHL. Said he's skipping out on this All-Star game, despite being named the Metropolitan Division captain. He said that basically what he said was at his age, taking another day off, giving his body some rest, is more important than doing this. Essentially, is what he said. Now he will receive a 1-game suspension for this, which is mandatory if a player was to skip out on the All-Star game. He said, I will just read a quote from him. He said, "First of all, thanks for all the fans who voted for me. I know it's a tough decision. Obviously, I'd like to be part of all these events, but right now, uh, I think that this is written wrong. But right now, I think that at this time of year, and my age, it's better to take a 1-week break. Um, it's hard, but it's better for me. I think at this point." So yeah, like I said, he will get a 1-game suspension for that. But the question I wanted to open up is, does this start a does this start something going forward where the older players, guys who have been through the trenches, their bodies are beat up, by the end of the year they're hanging on for dear life with their injuries? Does this open up a discussion where a lot of guys start skipping the All-Star game. Bobby, I'll go to you first. And I'm not even saying this just for the NHL. I want to open this up as a broad point for all sports. But we'll start with the NHL, and I'll start with you, Bobby. Do you think that this is going to have a trickling effect where other guys will start doing this, whether it's through, them not doing it because, they just need that break or injury or what? What do you think?
It was something I first thought of as soon as the news broke, where it's kind of leads. I mean, the All-Star game has been criticized for a very long time, very, very long time. I mean, and deservedly so. I mean, it really doesn't mean anything anymore. There's no, and this goes outside of the NHL, obviously. The Pro Bowl in the NFL doesn't mean shit anymore. It just doesn't. And that's the truth. So, especially my problem with the All-Star game, and besides the fact that it doesn't mean anything, is that it falls in such a weird time. Like, why are you having it in the middle of the season where guys can get hurt and ruin a team's chances of maybe going to the cup? Like, seriously. Like, and this is honestly, I don't know how this didn't happen earlier. So I'm kind of happy that Ovi's taken this step, because he knows that the Caps are in another position to make another playoff run. So he doesn't want to, have something stupid happen in the All-Star weekend and tear his ACL, and then all of a sudden the Caps are losing and out of the playoffs. So I don't know how this hasn't happened earlier. I'm not surprised. What I hope happens is this kind of sends a ripple effect down, at least in the NHL, that says, hey, you guys got to rethink what this is doing. Like, you guys got to rethink how this is done, because it is not the right way, right? Like, I would understand it a little bit more even if it didn't mean anything, right? If you put it after the cup, right? Like, if you put it after the cup, after all the playoffs are over, and then you have the All-Star game as like a celebration, then the guys are going to try a little bit more. I mean, you're never going to get the guys to fully play at an elite level, like as if they're playing a regular season game or a playoff game. You're never going to have that happen. But you can at least get them to at least try a little bit more, because they have a few months to recover if something does happen. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, unless you give it some sort of merit as to why they're there, besides, just having to be there contractually, then you're going to have more of this happen. And I'll give at least for the NHL, the All-Star weekend, this much credit that they added the skills competition and all those other things. And it is, for all intents and purposes, a hockey celebration. The fans still buy tickets to this thing and go there. And I'm sure the atmosphere at the arena is always, lots of fun and really cool to see. But it's a risk for the players. Imagine if Ovi went, or if somebody like McDavid went and got hurt and was out for the season. You would have people calling for Bevan's head. and he would have to be forced to rethink how this goes. But before that happens, how about you start thinking about it now? So what I hope happens here is that Ovechkin sent a very clear message to the NHL about how the All-Star game works. Like I said, I hope it sends a ripple effect. I don't foresee anybody else kind of dropping out of the All-Star game. I really don't. But I think he made a statement, and I hope the NHL is paying attention.
It's the one point I kind of took from you is, and I know it. What the hell, Brendy?
I'm sorry.
Noises coming.
It's the same thing. Like, literally, I looking for stories, and a fucking video plays, and it's like I can't fucking stop it.
Make the computer go through your headphones, though. The hell,
dude, I promise you, it is doing that. I think it's just because I have the computer volume barely on.
Anyway.
All right, you shouldn't be able to hear it anymore. I turned it all the way down. How about that?
Good boy.
The one point I wanted to that you said that I want to bring, because this has kind of been a debate with the Pro Bowl, is the timing of the year, because actually a lot of people don't like that it's right before the Super Bowl with the Pro Bowl. But the thing about that is, like what you said, like if somebody gets hurt, because it's everybody in the Pro Bowl is not playing for the Super Bowl, so if somebody gets hurt, it's not like it's going to affect the season.
And if you're in the Super Bowl, you're not even allowed to play.
Yeah, you're literally not allowed to. So now it's tough with the other sports. With football basically being a 3-month after playoffs 4-month schedule. opposed to hockey where it's after playoffs and all are all said and done, about 8-9 months. So it's tougher to have an All-Star game like before the finals, because now you're looking at an All-Star game in June. I don't know if that affects anything, but either way, I mean, you're right. It's the same thing with baseball and basketball as well, is that you have the All-Star game right in the smack dab in the middle of the year. If something does happen, now you're looking at big problems. So yeah, I have to side with Obi here. I mean, he's getting up there in age, and he's been doing great things for a long time. You don't want an All-Star game to deteriorate that, but even over the other sports, I think, like for example, and I know this is kind of a stereotype at this point, but or like a stereotypical point, I should say. But with the Pro Bowl, I mean, guys are just not even tackling. Like either they're basically playing two-handed touch out there. What like what fun is that for the fans? In hockey, I mean, they do the 3-on-3, which made it a little bit more exciting. It's better than it was. I'll say that. But guys are not going 100%. They're going 60%, maybe the max. And in baseball, it's they play like a regular game and stuff, but they have a pitcher coming in almost every inning. Guys are getting subbed in and out. It's not a real game. And the craziest thing about that was that the All-Star game decided where the World Series was for the longest time in baseball, which was the craziest thing ever. Like the craziest point ever for me. I never understood that. Where home field advantage was decided by the All-Star game. That's insane. But either way,
to play for, because usually, I mean, so nowadays, home field is decided by seeding, right? For the most part, at least in the NFL. Part of the clinching a playoff spot toward the end of the season is to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So I guess it's, I don't know. I kind of liked the idea of it, but mainly because, okay, if it's not that the All-Stars are playing for, then what can they possibly play for? Like, I don't see what else it could possibly be. That being said, it can kind of screw things up with, if a team's really good, and they lose home field because of an All-Star game.
Yeah. And then end up losing the World. Yeah, like I never got that. I mean, they removed that now.
Yeah, I mean that's gone, but that was the idea. I don't know. They I don't think they can really give anything to play for. I think the only way you're gonna get some respect out of the All-Star game back is if you do it after a championship is played. That's the only way I think this can happen. Because everybody's done. Everybody can. If something stupid happens, they have a little bit of time to recover over the summer and whatever, but I don't know. Yeah. It's hard, but I mean, it's not. They can't keep doing it this way. The NHL especially, they're driving me crazy. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think I've watched. I mean, I'll watch the clips after the fact. Like,
right.
My favorite from what year or two ago was when PK Subban dressed up as Jaromir Jagr and did his breakaway with the mullet and everything. I don't know. It just I don't think there's going to be anything that they can do to make it like this is the matchup of the century.
Yeah,
they're playing for the top prize unless you want to give them a trophy.
I mean, at the end of the day, the All-Star game is for the fans.
It is,
and I'm sure at the actual site of the All-Star game, it's a much more entertaining event because I'm sure they have a lot of stuff to do and whatnot. But as a fan who watches on TV, and it just the All-Star game and all the sports never appealed to me really. I mean, I'll say this: I always loved the skills competition for the NHL. I always loved the home run derby for baseball. The new thing they're doing with the Pro Bowl with like their skills competition. I like that kind of stuff because it's not something you see every day. you watch a football game and you're going to see them play, and then you watch a Pro Bowl, it's the same thing. But adding this accuracy challenge, and they were doing like dodgeball, like that's like it's different, it's cool, but like the actual All-Star games just don't really mean that much to me. The NHL, I will say, them doing 3v3 for the All-Star game was a huge step in making it more entertaining. I'm just still, it's tough. Again, you don't want anybody getting hurt out there.
I think the best year of the All-Star game, it was John Scott.
Oh, for sure.
God,
it's not. Hands down.
I watched every bit of that All-Star game.
Yeah.
But you better believe that was incredible. That was just fun. It was just one of those special moments.
I mean, there was so much from it. The way he got there and the fan vote, and it was, the NHL was making it this terrible thing, and then what ended up happening in the game was very cool.
And it made him a ton of money.
It did, and I read a book, his book about it, and it's he's actually a very humble guy. And
I'll have to read that.
He didn't even want to when all this backlash was happening about him getting in, he tried to remove himself, and then like his friends and the players around the league were like no, and it was just this whole thing. But that was hands down the best.
I think game. Though, and I want to step back, and you mentioned the home run derby. Please, listeners, do not burn me at the stake for saying this. I'm going to try my best to word it the best way I can. I feel like the home run derby. Well, first of all, the home run derby always just feels like a great event, even though it really means nothing.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, I mean, it's nice to have on your resume to say that you won the home run derby. Like, because of how baseball is just generally played, it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot harder to get. I mean, injuries happen, but it's a lot harder to get hurt or I should say, there's less of a chance for something stupid to happen in the home run derby than the NHL All-Star game. Because I mean, for all intents and purposes, you're there just swinging a bat again, and something stupid can happen. I'm not saying that nothing stupid, can't happen. I mean, you could tear a rotator, it could, pitcher stupid and it hits you accidentally.
Foul ball off your foot.
Foul ball. Like there's a million things. Don't get me wrong, but the home run derby, I feel like it is always the kind of safe bet with the MLB, just for the simple fact that you're just kind of swinging something you do every day anyway.
No, I agree.
So it just seems like for a contact sport like the NHL and then the NFL, where you're constantly, especially in the NFL, I mean, the whole game revolves around whoever you hit, right? So the line, even in the All-Star game, is always hitting each other every single play. Hockey, I mean, yeah, you can take it easy on the hits and the contact a little bit, but not by much. You're still moving around, and if you're not looking where you're going, not keeping your head up, something stupid can happen. You get a concussion or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just.
I mean, you could lose an edge and crash into the board. Yeah. Like there's a lot.
Yeah, it's high speed. Your baseball. You step up to the plate. You're planted to the ground. You got a helmet on. You got a bat. You're you still can get hurt, but it's a lot less likely, and I think that definitely helps the MLB's All-Star stuff that they do, like the home run derby. Because a little bit safer, and there's not as much risk to the players. That being said, if someone were to, a big name player like I don't know, I haven't paid attention.
Stanton or Aaron Judge.
Yeah, like Aaron Judge go up to the plate and for a home run derby and tear a rotator, you better believe there's going to be some hell after that. But it's I think that definitely helps in MLB's case. Why the home run derby is still considered like a prime time thing every single year.
Right.
So that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think if you're going to see it in any sports, I think you're going to see it more for your hockeys and like hockey and football. I think you'll see more guys like backing out. Because I think the NBA does a really good job, entertainment wise, with their All-Star game. Now the game itself usually sucks, but like their entertainment, as far as the shows they have, and they have their celebrity game, and they have Brendy, I don't know, do they still do the skills competition for the NBA?
They do, and I'm actually really into skills challenge.
Yeah,
I remember a couple years ago they had former Hawks point guards, Jeff Teague, Dennis Schroeder.
Mhm.
They had them basically in the skills competition playing each other. And it's actually really entertaining to watch. I feel like if you guys haven't seen that, like, well, specifically if there's like someone like on your team, like, because if not, then maybe it's not as entertaining. But like, let's say, I don't know, not Markel, Ben Simmons was in the skills competition, like, and it's like kind of a bracket style kind of thing where it's like if
Right.
you win, it's like you go against other players, and it's pretty entertaining. And I definitely recommend, like, if one of your guys is in the skills competition, give it a watch, because
Yeah.
you'll actually like be really cheering him on, especially like towards the end where, like, I think the last part is you have to shoot a 3-pointer, and like you just you just like pray to God, like, hopefully like the other guy keeps breaking, and then like you just you get it. So
Yeah, I forgot. I mean, they obviously have the dunk contest as well. So I like I said, I think the NBA does it well. I will wrap up the point here with just saying that, yeah, I think you might see this more in the future with, maybe some older guys or some guys that are dealing with maybe some lingering injuries throughout the year who are healthy enough to do it, but maybe just need that break.
right.
It might happen. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, I have to side with OB here, and really any other player that does it. But we move on. We are going to talk about the absolute thrashing that happened on Monday night. Clemson beat the shit out of Alabama, 44-16. Man, I'll tell you one thing. That game, that first quarter, I thought we were going to see like the score after the first quarter be like 45-45. The way they were playing. The game started off. Clemson got the ball. They punt it, and then Tua throws a pick six. They come back down, score. Clemson scores. Bama scores again. It was crazy. In the end, Clemson was just the better team. Trevor Lawrence, the X factor, just what a player. He's gonna be one hell of an NFL quarterback one day. I think I don't think Tua played well at all. He looked very pressured. He didn't seem to handle the defensive pressure and the rush that the Clemson defense was getting. And that was it. And then, by the way, the wide receiver for Clemson, who I'm forgetting his name right now, made that one-handed catch. No. Their wide receiver. He made a one-handed catch, and I can't think of his name right now. But he's a freshman, and man, he came out with some big plays. God, fucking Justin Ross. That's who it was. Justin Ross was had made some amazing plays in that game, and I came away. But sorry, Brendy.
I was just gonna say, I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What is with teams recently just taking really shitty fake punts and field goals?
Oh my God, yeah. What, like? Okay, here's one. It's one thing if it's like a 4th and 1, but like, okay, obviously the one that I think might be the worst play call of all time was the Georgia call against Alabama this year.
Let's have fucking Justin Fields punt the football.
Our backup quarterbacks on the field, like, don't mind us.
Yeah, we just want to try something, guys.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was like a 4th and like 15 or something like that. It was like a 4th and over 10. I know that.
It was not a play where like you should, like, maybe like if I'm doing a fake punt, I'm like 4th and 5, like at like furthest back.
Yeah, and I think this was like a 4th and 6, 4th and 7 or something like that. But I mean, to be fair, he actually would have made it if the offensive lineman could have held his block for about a millisecond longer.
But still, why do you have your like backup quarterback on like a run play like that?
Yeah,
I would say the best thing to do would be like I don't know, maybe a direct snap or something.
Or like, this is kind of the way of the college and NFL now. Like, do a reverse play where like somebody comes in motion or something, or just something that
motion it to the tight end.
Like it's something that's not a direct snap to your backup quarterback, who, not to mention, is not fast. Like I don't know. Like I know Jalen Hurts wouldn't be holding the ball, but
He's not
like
even. He's Mac Jones isn't even the backup. He's the backup of the backup.
exactly. Like yeah, it's it doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, that is funny. That is a funny point. Yeah, with the whole fake punt thing. I don't know. Nick Saban, I guess at that point was just trying to make something happen.
You know what you know what's funny though? If that had worked, praise like
Yeah, really.
Nick Saban is like a god.
Yeah.
I mean, he already is, but you get my point.
But yeah, I mean, I think Clemson is very deserving. Obviously, they went 15-0, but I thought they, Alabama didn't lose a game and they were ranked number one at the start of the season, so that's why they didn't move. But I thought Clemson could have easily been number one ahead of them. I mean, I'll put it to you this way: they're essentially both number ones, but Clemson just had to be number two. But I think they were very deserving. I think we all had Clemson winning, I believe, on the preview.
I had Alabama.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think Clemson.
I think
deserving.
you had Tyler. I think you had it closer than I did, but we both had it close-ish.
Yeah, I just have to say, like I said, Trevor Lawrence, I can't speak enough about him. Comes in, they have Kelly Bryant at the beginning of the year. They go to Trevor Lawrence 4 games in. This guy is supposed to be the next big thing in the NFL. He was on. There's this show that Trent Dilfer does, of all people, a quarterback show. And I can't think of it right now because that's my MO for the show. But basically, it's the top quarterback prospects out of high school come to the show and compete. And Trevor Lawrence won. And some of the past winners on that show included like Andrew Luck, Jared Goff. I think like Darnold won it. So like he's in good company, and he should, when he is draft eligible, he will be the first quarterback off the board, maybe the first player off the board. So yeah, he has a very bright future, and only a freshman. I mean, this kid back there was a picture like that. I forget who posted it. It might have been ESPN or maybe even Barstool or something. But there was a picture from him in May. So less than 8 months ago or something, that he was going to his senior prom. That's crazy, man. And then he just won a national championship. So, yeah, congrats to Clemson. I think they are the favorites. They are the outright favorites for the championship next year. Alabama at them at number 2, but yeah, congrats to Clemson, and we've talked about this enough over the past week, so I'm not gonna hold it any longer. But yeah, congrats to them.
One question I do want to ask though is,
Mhm.
do we think we're going to see Clemson, Alabama again next year?
I mean, they're the 2 favorites, so it's very possible.
Man, I don't know. I have this feeling it's gonna be 2 different teams. I don't know why. Like if it's gonna be one of the teams, I feel like it's gonna be Clemson.
I mean, the main point is that Lawrence is going to be back and Tua are going to be back. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, you have Clemson will be losing a lot of players to the NFL draft, but, they'll get their 5 stars back in.
Tua cannot play like he did in the championship game, though.
Too many turnovers. Yeah, I mean, that pick 6 at the start of the game didn't help, and he even fumbled that got recovered by his own team, so it could have been more than he had. He had a terrible game. I mean, like I said, the defensive pressure from Clemson was just too much for him. But the problem is with that question, Bobby, is if it's not them, who's it gonna be? Okay, so your teams behind them would be like Ohio State. Now, Ohio State's quarterback, well, if he is eligible, I should say, will be Justin Fields. Justin Fields transferred. Wait a second, am I mixing them up? Or Justin Fields just transferred to or enrolled, I should say, in Ohio State. So yeah, I mean, he might be the starting quarterback. Can he lead them? I don't know. As a Michigan fan, I don't know if we're there to make it to the final yet. So that's the thing. If it's not them, who's it gonna be? That would be the thing for me. So.
Well, I will have to say, I feel like Justin Fields leaving Georgia, him leaving Georgia, I feel like actually hurts them more than they might think right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's. I feel like Jake Fromm is gonna be just about a gamble every year. Like he's exactly the kind of guy that can take you to a national championship, but he's also the kind of guy that can only get you 7 wins. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like there's no telling, and it's funny because Georgia quarterbacks have been, they've always been like that. At least the past 2 years they have.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. No, I think, like I said, I just can't. I mean, Notre Dame maybe, but yeah, I think, and obviously Georgia too. But no,
UCF.
if I had a prediction now, I mean, I it's hard not to go Clemson, Alabama again. But we'll have to see with how the recruits that come in for these teams, what impacts they make, and then kind of go from there. But
very early prediction, I'm going Clemson, Ohio State.
Yeah,
and I hate Ohio State.
I mean, yeah,
I'm with you, brother.
All right, God, thank you.
If I had a prediction, I mean, I hate Ohio State too, but I could see them getting there. I could see them getting there for sure. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We will move on.
Excuse me. Hold on, just one second. Hold on a second. Hold on. Go Blue!
Okay, so a topic that we've kind of had sitting back for a rainy day is it's a rainy day now because there's nothing to talk about in this world and the sports world for the past couple of days. So we had this question. I thought of it, and I'm going to pose it to you guys. I'll have your answer. We'll have a big discussion, but what classifies somebody to be a Hall of Famer? Now we can go sport to sport, but I'm kind of talking in a general census at this point. The best of the best, the guys that'll go down forever. What classifies someone to do that? What do they have to do on the field to do that? I guess, I'll just go to one of you guys just to kind of get the conversation started, and then we'll kind of see where it goes. So if one of you want to take the reins and kind of give your answers, go for it, and then we'll kind of have a discussion from there. So whoever wants to take the reins.
You want to start off, Brendy?
All right. So are we going to do this like basically on a sport by sport basis?
Just talk. If you go into a specific sport, that's fine. But as for a general question, I'm just kind of going generally throughout sports, not sport not a specific sport.
One question. I'm sorry. Just real quick. One question before we get into this is, can I count wrestling? Because there's a point I want to make about it.
Like WWE?
Yes.
There's
a point I'm gonna make with it that relates to the NFL and everything else.
Yes, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Go, Brendy. I'll talk my point when Brendy's done.
All right. So in order for the proper criteria in my eyes to be met, like if I was on some sort of sports committee, here's what I would decide. So I do believe that there is some importance of. So okay, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to differentiate because different sports have this. Like the NFL has the All-Pro team, not the Pro Bowl, the All-Pro team. And the NBA has the All-NBA team.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of lacking in some sports, though. Like for example, in baseball, where in baseball, how do you decide whether someone or not is a Hall of Famer? You kind of, quite honestly, in baseball, I feel like you kind of just look at the stats and be like, okay, did they take steroids? No. Okay, Hall of Famer. So I would have to say one of my biggest criteria for any sport is to have an impact on the game that has basically changed the way the game has been played, or at least like in some effect. So like, some guy hits 500 home runs in his career, probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because that's a very minute group of people, and it's a special accomplishment. And I think special accomplishments, maybe you can make some sort of case. But then again, I'm going to take it back to the NBA. Derrick Rose okay. So Derrick Rose, I would argue, maybe like he's seemed like he's turned his career around for the better.
Mm-hmm.
If you had asked me a couple years ago if Derrick Rose was going to be in the Hall of Fame, I would have said hell no, because he would have been the first person. If his career had stayed, as poorly as it was going, he would have been the first person in NBA history to win the MVP and not be in the Hall of Fame, because he was basically a case of like superhero to zero.
Like, I mean, that also had to do with injuries, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but when the man is healthy, like he still wasn't able to produce.
Mm.
It's glad to see that he's turned around, and he's able to have a very productive career. So it's hard to tell because, like, for different sports, different criteria is needed. So also, I will say this, universally for every sport, I would say you have to have an impact on the game, like not a tremendous, but like you have to be. You have to be the transcender, as that's probably the proper word I'm looking for.
That's the big point for me. Yep.
And I know there are some sports where it's a little easier. I will say, and you guys can disagree with me, I think Pro Bowl selections in football should not even be a criteria at all.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not a big. I mean, we've talked about this before. I mean, the All-Pro team, yeah, that's one thing. But the Pro Bowl, I mean, it's cool and all, but I'm not gonna say it's nothing because I don't think it's that. But I don't think it should be as big of a criteria as it is. Like, oh, he's been to 9 Pro Bowls. Look at him. Like, it's
right. It's like he got to 9 Pro Bowls because everyone was turning down their Pro Bowl offers or something.
And not that too, and not to mention like for this is kind of how, I don't know if it's the same way for the NFL, but in the NHL there has to be one player from each team. So like the team that's in the basement with some of the worst teams has to have a representative for that team. Do they really deserve to be in an All-Star game? But on their record it's going to say, one All-Star game, because they were the only one on their team, like on a shitty team, that made it. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I can't remember if it's the same thing for the NFL.
I don't know about the NFL.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
But
Might be wrong, though.
I agree with that too. I don't think it's that big of a thing. But sorry, I went off there.
Yeah. So, and honestly, it's also like it's also kind of like it may be a little biased of how do I word this? It might be a little biased in terms of like, if you've seen the man, perform live, you might put him ahead of one of the more like historical guys, I guess. Like I don't know if I would. I do know that I do know the Hall of Fame selection committee has done that before.
Right.
All right, and what were you gonna say, Bobby?
Well, what I wanted to get into when we started about it, you mentioned, you were talking about so for me it's criteria, right? And this is where the controversy always seems to come in any Hall of Fame is, okay, someone's as good on the maybe one of the best players you ever saw on the field, but what are they like off the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that seems to be up for debate. Like, is someone who's like one of the special players, that definitely from a playing perspective deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But if they were, a woman beater or something else off the field, does that person deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Um,
So
I don't know.
I mentioned that I wanted to bring the WWE into this because this is where this happens pretty consistently. Let's take Hulk Hogan for example. It was removed from the Hall of Fame after the Gawker scandal, where the sex tape of him was released, where he was saying some racist things.
Mhm.
He has since been reinstated into the Hall of Fame. Now I from my remembrance, I'm not looking at it, but he won his case, right? Against everything, against the guys who leaked that tape and everything like that. But the comments he made still exist.
Right.
So now I got to say this correctly. It's not like he wasn't going out and saying these choice words to anybody, but he was saying those words that he probably should not have said, and it was definitely pretty racist. Does that give enough of a reason to kick somebody out of the Hall of Fame?
Well, I don't know. I said no originally.
There's context, but
I'll say this. It's tough because I said no originally, but the Hall of Fame is not. It should be based off your perform because how do I word this?
well, let me say this much as you're kind of getting your words together, right? So it's honestly, and this is where the choice. I'm not going to say I swing one side or the other. I'm not going to get into that. I mean, what the things you're saying is stuff that the company and the Hall of Fame should not be siding with by any means. But can you imagine the way wrestling is, at least it was back then, and then it is today, without Hulk Hogan?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the
it's impossible.
Yeah, he's the wrestler, right?
Right.
And the guy who still kind of goes around like, you got the guys like The Rock who was a big time wrestler, but now he's a big time Hollywood guy. The Hulk Hogan's not a big time Hollywood guy. He's known as one of, or if not the greatest wrestler of all time, and that's still his gimmick. He walks around and he's Hulk Hogan the wrestler, even though he doesn't compete anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like, and he made such a he sent wrestling the direction it is today. I mean, but he got removed from the Hall of Fame for a lot of stuff, and he's been reinstated, and for a while that whole thing was going on, he wasn't allowed on TV. Once he was reinstated, he came back. He was just on this past Monday when he was doing his doing a promo for who we talked about last week, Gene Oakley, Mean Gene. He was on TV for that. And I saw a bunch of comments of him like, "Oh, is the racist still on TV?" Like,
wow,
yeah. Oh no, it was a side that, because I thought for the most part that people were wanting him back in the Hall of Fame and everything like that, but no, there's a lot of people who kind of want him gone after the comments that he made. And I really shouldn't be surprised at this, just the way cancel culture works. It doesn't matter what you've done for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, doesn't matter. You make comments like this, and you kind of show some inner feelings and some of your inner views, and now you're all of those past accomplishments are to be erased because X. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And again, I'm not going to sway one way or the other on this at the moment, but it seems like a really tough spot to be in if you're someone like a director of the Hall of Fame or whatever that position may be, because you have these prominent figures. Like, I'll bring it to the NHL. Imagine if Wayne Gretzky was that guy. Like, so Wayne Gretzky, like, considered the greatest hockey player of all time, arguably, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now imagine if he was that bad guy outside of the sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, side note, that's actually an argument?
No. He's just making a point.
Yeah. Like, so imagine he's that guy. He's the guy. He's the racist outside, or he's committed some heinous crime or done something stupid. You get my drift. Imagine if he did that. Can he get kicked out of the Hall of Fame for that? Or would I guess he can, but would he?
I don't think he would.
So I'll go back to what I was trying to say before. Like, I feel like the Hall of Fame is based on your accomplishments on the field, and I know there's a part of it that's off the field stuff, but the Hall of Fame was created essentially to show the excellence in your field. So whatever it is, sports or you know uh, hockey. You're the one of the greatest of all time on the ice, statistically, whatever. You're supposed to be put into the Hall of Fame because of that. So I guess it's also circumstantial. Like if it's something where, like if it's like a minor kind of off the ice thing, like that's one thing. But if it's or off the field, whatever. But if it's like for example, Ray Lewis. A lot of people think Ray Lewis murdered a person. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? It's if you here's the thing. If you think being in the Hall of Fame is about what they have done on the field, what they have done for the sport, and what with what they did, then yeah, they should be in the Hall of Fame. If you think it's that and what they've done off the field, blah blah blah, then you're on the other side. It's kind of just what you want the definition to be. Like I said, I think the Hall of Fame for sports is it's really just based on what you did on the field.
This is where it becomes problematic, right? Because there are people who, like I said, who, they do something and that's all they can kind of think of. And deservedly so. Like if you have a guy who like imagine if OJ was in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Like top football player, right? One of the best, arguably, that has ever been on the field. But, now, well, I guess so. His is a little more complicated because he came out. Well, okay, maybe not. So for the murder of Nicole Brown, right? That's her name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Nicole Brown Simpson. He was found not guilty, but it is widely believed that he did it.
He literally admitted after he did it.
Right. Yeah, and wrote the book "If I Did It," which, God,
you did it.
yeah. But he now eventually he ended up going to prison for a separate robbing and kidnapping charge. But if he was in the Hall of Fame for all the things that he did on the field, can you honestly sit there and say that he belongs in the Hall of Fame just for that by itself? Because when I say O.J. Simpson, what's the first thing that comes in your mind? It's definitely not football.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not football.
It's definitely not football, and this is where the problem is, right? So you have somebody like, so let's take. I'm trying to think. Like, okay, so yeah, you mentioned Ray Lewis, right? They think he killed somebody, right? Or you know what? Let's say Aaron Hernandez was it.
Okay.
Somebody who got convicted for it, went to prison, and ended up tragically passing away.
Right.
What's the first thing you think of when I say Aaron Hernandez?
Yeah.
Right. It's and that's where the problem is going to be. And for some people, and I brought up Hulk Hogan in the beginning of this whole thing. For Hulk Hogan, that's something just people can't get by anymore. Is the comments that he was making in that leaked tape, right? Mm-hmm. Now, for me, it's really hard because, like I said, it's hard to picture any type of wrestling without Hulk Hogan, right? I don't want to get into whether I believe he's in the Hall of Fame because honestly, I don't know what the right answer is because I see both sides of this. But for other examples that I mentioned, like O.J. Simpson and Aaron Hernandez, what do you do? Like you cannot possibly. I don't think you can put those guys in the Hall of Fame because they're not famous for football anymore. O.J. Simpson is famous for the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. Aaron Hernandez would be famous for the whoever he ended up murdering. I'm forgetting their name.
Odin Lloyd.
Yeah, Odin Lloyd. That's his name. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's I think it's a tough slope, but I guess to answer the original question about what classifies to be somebody in the Hall of Fame, I'll agree with you that the first step is going to be, what you did on the field, right?
Like a transcender,
right?
Yeah.
So you're somebody who came in here and changed the game in some way, right? But you kind of have a secondary responsibility with being a professional athlete, and that's to set a bit of an example. Now, I'm not saying you have to, do what, like, take LeBron James. No question, Hall of Famer. It's not even remotely a question. On and off the court, right? Take him as the prime example of this. He's the guy that they're arguing is better than Michael Jordan, and he's also, like, he opened a school for underprivileged kids, has done numerous, I believe, charity things, and he's also big with his kids. Like, it's something you don't hear about enough from professional athletes. The first thing you hear about professional athletes is after, besides their playing, is, oh, he did this. And it's always ended up being something bad. It's always, oh, he knocked this woman out in an elevator. He beat his kid with a stick.
Well, that's what I was just going to bring up. Do you think AP deserves to be in the Hall of Fame?
Dude, it's hard to say. If we're going off the merit that you have to be on and off, like a standout person, then he definitely doesn't. However, he was definitely, it argues now because his career's kind of been on decline the past few years. He's been from team to team. He was complaining in New Orleans and whatever. So you can argue that, but for the first half of his career, he was absolutely what Brendy said, a transcender, right? I mean, he was just dominant. Yeah. Like, it was ridiculous how good he was. I definitely could see him being at least thought about and in the talks, if he hasn't been already. I mean, he's still playing, but so there's a while to go. But what I was going to finish off with is that I was going to say, like, so at this point, what classifies someone to be Hall of Famer? You have to be someone like LeBron James. You have to be a transcender, but you also have to be the standout off the field. You just, because it's gonna be like what I'm saying with OJ and Aaron Hernandez. I mean, by the way, those two, I know they're not Hall of Famers, but they're obviously, they can't be for reasons I'm specifying here. Like, that's what I'm getting at, is that you don't think about what they did on the field when you say their names.
Right.
Let's look at, it was Hunt, right, for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. So somebody who, if he had his career still going, at least on the field, definitely would have been talked about, right? Or at least I would think so. I mean, I'm not going to say he was a Hall of Famer per se, but I'm going to say that he'd be at least thought of, right?
Well,
but now this happened, and now he's off the Chiefs, and now he doesn't have a career.
So here, because I want to bring up another point in a second, but I just want to say I think Brendy kind of said it perfectly with being a transcender. I think you have to leave an imprint on the game you play. I when I was researching when I was thinking about this, I thought about this point, and I know it's a terrible point because he's literally played like 10 games this year. But Lamar Jackson, I just need to say this about him. Lamar Jackson is doing something right now in the NFL that we don't really see. The way he can run the football as a quarterback and do that. If he continues this throughout his career, and Drichet becomes a Hall of Famer, he does that because of what he did. He did something that revolutionized the game. I think you need to revolutionize is a strong word, but you need to leave your imprint, and you need to be so dominant in what you do that it changes the way people think. They have to defend against you differently, so they have to change their way because you're so dominant.
Here's the go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I think that's the main thing for me. I think stats is the big thing, but it's you need to be, like you said, a transcender, and you need to be dominant. So I mean, that's my point.
Here's one thing though. Here's one thing. Who is Lamar Jackson always compared to?
I was going to say Colin Kaepernick. Is that the answer you're looking for?
No.
Because,
but you were talking.
Is it someone that plays now?
No, you're talking. So you're talking about how Lamar Jackson is able to run the bar.
Michael Vick.
Michael Vick.
Yeah, right? I was thinking about that. I didn't want.
Yeah. So Michael Vick is another example of what we're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Right. He's talked about on the field because Michael Vick was kind of the first guy who kind of was the transcender of the running quarterback. Like he was the quarterback who could throw dimes downfield, but could also run the ball almost as good as a top tier running back. Like, and he revolutionized that style, brought that into the NFL, and now you see guys like Amar Jackson, picking on kind of style. And as soon as you see a quarterback like that in the NFL, he's immediately compared to Michael Vick every single time.
And I think Michael Vick, didn't he like break the rushing record for a quarterback in like his third season?
Yes.
Yeah. So he holds the record for most career rushing yards by a quarterback, which is 6,109, and most rushing yards by a quarterback. Yep. He holds the record for the most career rushing yards by a quarterback at 6,109, and the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a season, which was 1,039. Now,
are you looking at a standings list? Because I gotta ask who's second.
I can get the standings. That was just his bio that I was looking at, but I can look that up real quick.
So while you're looking that up, so I want to bring up another point real quick. Is there a difference between somebody getting in the Hall of Fame, if they do an individual sport or a team sport? Is there any difference with that? Like, boxing or MMA or I don't know.
I think
swimming with Michael Phelps. Like, if is there a difference between that and doing that as a individual rather than doing it as a team sport?
Because it's a different it's a different game each time. Obviously, I mean, for baseball, you're up to the plate, right? And there's only so much that when you're at the plate, there's only so much a coach can do to help you, give you signs and whatnot. And when you're playing defense in baseball, I mean, it's a little more team based because you could have guys calling for the ball behind you, and you guys are communicating so you can make the right play and turn the double or whatever. But for all intents and purposes, you're scoring points by yourself. I mean, you're up there, and how you hit the ball and how you make contact with the ball is what sets up your team. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily a team sport, right? But you got hockey where, where you're kind of relying on your teammates to make the play so that you have the open net. Or in football, you're looking to get open so the quarterback can get you the ball. Basketball, same thing. But boxing and combat sports like MMA and everything else, I mean, you have a coach or team on the side outside of the cage or outside of the ring, but for the most part, it's really on you and everything you've kind of trained for. For combat sports, what makes a Hall of Famer or a transcender is something that they do something they haven't seen before. So Muhammad Ali, for boxing, I mean, he's again regarded as the greatest boxer of all time, arguably. I know Mayweather's in that conversation as well. But for Ali, right? I mean, he was quick-footed. I mean, he's known for his quick style and his hard hits, right? And then you got guys like Mike Tyson, who had the wicked right hand, which is, if you've ever seen it, it's deadly, by the way. Yeah. It really is.
I played Punch-Out, so I know.
Oh, yeah. But go watch Mike Tyson's fights. His rights are, oh Jesus. And you got Mayweather, who has a different style of running around and waiting for the bell. But I'm just kidding. Mayweather is for all intents and purposes a good technical boxer. But those are guys who transcended the what a boxing style was. Traditional boxing style is punch, duck, weave, all that kind of thing. But there was something different about what they did, something unconventional that caught the eye and helped them win the matches that they won. When it comes to team sports, right? For football, it's as much of a team sport it is, it can always take one guy to turn a team around, right? Like Bledsoe gets hurt, and here comes Tom Brady. Look what Tom Brady has done since then.
Yep.
And take a look at probably the best example I can think of. Look at LeBron James with the Cavaliers after they won the finals, carried that team.
Yeah,
seriously, It's I don't know. There's a different way for a guy in a single sport to be in the Hall of Fame talks versus somebody in a team sport.
Right.
Michael Vick was just it wasn't his receiving yards or when that he was known for. At the end of the day, he's known for being the guy who, when out of the pocket, can also run the ball. That's the thing. Like it kind of depends, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're all in agreement that you have to be, like I said, Brendy said the word perfectly because I think you have to be a transcender of your sport. But like I think what's still up in the air for us is the whole off the field thing. Like,
because it's tough.
yeah,
Because I mean, you can't like I said, like if you like Michael Vick's not gonna go strictly because of what he did in 2008, 2007.
this might be a dumb question, but do you think it changes like with the people that with the guys that get convicted? Like let me put it this way: like a guy comes out and says like something racist. Is it different on him than a guy that um Michael Vick, who killed, was dogfighting? Is it different if it's like, well, he came out and said these races, like, or is it the same level because it's still something bad?
It's okay. So I'm a believer in context, right? So your question kind of goes back to what I said about Hulk Hogan earlier. He was removed from the Hall of Fame for the racist comments. Now the lawsuit he was in was about the sex tape just being leaked and how legal that was. That's not a crime. That's him suing for, illegal videotaping and release, right? But even after the court case was over, he was reinstated shortly after the court case, I believe. But the comments still existed,
Yeah,
right? And that's not a convictable offense, but the comments were still there, and they're not totally accepted by many people, right? But I mean, accusations happen, man. I mean, look at Patrick Kane.
yeah,
Who had sexual assault allegations against him. Now he was not convicted, right? And so at that point he's cleared of everything, right? Now, I've pointed this out to you before. He still gets chirped for it.
Oh,
right?
I kind of just giggled because I just remember, I forget what stadium he was in, but the fans were chanting, "She said no."
Yeah, she said no. There's a video of it on YouTube. I
That's
forget who it was.
terrible.
I want to say Winnipeg, but I don't think that was it.
I can't even remember. But either way, I
Yeah, I
mean,
can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, accusations happen, right? And we look at Hunt's case from the Chiefs, right? Like his problem was like he hasn't totally been convicted for anything yet, but the video's right there, man. I mean,
yeah,
you can't say no to what you're looking at here, right? So you're the Chiefs, even if he does or does not get convicted, I mean, you're looking at that video and you're like, well, shit, we can't keep him. Like
right.
we can't uphold this kind of behavior. And I guess that kind of opens up a new point that I don't think any of us have made yet. The Hall of Fame is a brand.
Hmm.
It's a brand in any sport, right? So the reason the Chiefs got rid of Hunt so quickly is they're trying to upkeep the brand, right? They don't stand for that type of behavior. The Hall of Fame, for all intents and purposes, should be no different, right? They're at the end of the day, they're a brand. If they let somebody like Michael Vick in there, a convicted dog killer, or O.J. Simpson, I mean, he wasn't convicted, but has later admitted to committing those crimes, they're not going to be taken seriously. And then at that point, the Hall of Fame becomes nothing. And
Right.
then you're going to have people who are going to be boycotting it, and the whole idea of the Hall of Fame is going to change, and they can't have that happen. So when whatever Hall of Fame it is, whether it's football or hockey or wrestling or whatever it is, they got to be careful. And this is why they need to, especially now, right? Especially now with the age of social media and the way news spreads, right? It's not as easy to just kind of let bygones be bygones with anything because of how news spreads and how cancel culture exists, right?
Mhm.
Imagine if Michael Vick, I mean, this was 10 years ago and it's still heinous and it's still just as bad as it would be today. Can you imagine if Michael Vick did that today, if he was still playing, if he did the dogfighting crimes?
Yeah.
He would be he'd be out of league in the heartbeat. But let's look at everything
Yeah.
that happened after the conviction. He was convicted in 2008. He was released from the Falcons. He was suspended, served some time in jail, came back, immediately played for the Eagles, Jets, and Steelers.
Yeah.
Now, and was also hired as an analyst for Fox Sports, and I believe he's a offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Legends now, right? So he's still got the career.
Right.
I feel like he doesn't have one if he did that today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
agree.
will say this. Being around Atlanta my whole life, much of what Michael Vick has done, like in terms of what he's done on the field will always be remembered. And it's the whole dogfighting thing, quite honestly, not forgiven, but it's forgotten. You know?
Yeah.
And it's a question that I don't think there's one answer to. Is that the right way to do it? I mean, Michael Vick, like the point I was making with Lamar Jackson earlier, Michael Vick revolutionized and introduced that style of the running quarterback, the dual threat. That's the name of it, dual threat quarterback. Every person who does what Lamar Jackson is currently doing is going to get compared to Michael Vick every single time. It's just how it is. I do it. That's who I refer to immediately because that's what he did. That's his thing on the game.
He was the first guy to do it, so that's what he's remembered. Well,
but
I mean, if it was anybody but him, that's what he would be remembered for.
If I'm talking from a football perspective, I'm going to mention Michael Vick as a revolutionary player because of his play style, but I'm not going to sit here and say he's the model player because he's not. Yeah. He's nowhere close. And I guess that's where the line has to be drawn, right? And this is a question for the Hall of Fame, and there's no right answer to that. I feel like there's really no right answer to this at all. It really depends on moral value for everybody and what classifies somebody being in each Hall of Fame individually, but I don't see how you put Michael Vick in it, man. If Michael Vick's even in the question anymore, there's no way. There would be fires and riots in that area, and you know it.
He would. He's okay. So I'm not sure. I'll have to do some research on this, but if he's not already, like I feel like Michael Vick, not going to get in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Right.
No. But I think he might get you know how cities and states have their local Hall of Fame. I think he'll probably get in the Atlanta Sports Hall of Fame.
There was somebody who there was somebody else I wanted to bring up wrestling wise because it was a better example of kind of the point I'm making. Because I've talked about Michael Vick, I talked about Aaron Hernandez, O.J. Simpson, three guys who will never be in the Hall of Fame because of their outside, convictions and activities and whatever. So Jimmy Superfly Snuka, professional wrestler, again, who had some revolutionary ties in wrestling. He's in the Hall of Fame. In 2015, he was arrested on third-degree murder charges and involuntary manslaughter charges in a death from 1983 that this happened. Wow. He pleaded not guilty, but what ended up happening is that because of his dementia and as his health was declining, he was unfit to stand trial and his charges were dismissed. So there's no answer of whether or not he did it, but obviously there was something that said he did. But he's still in the Hall of Fame.
That's a tough call.
Yeah, and this is my point: is that there's got to be some context with all this, right? I mean, he's still in the Hall of Fame because, for all intents and purposes, he wasn't found guilty.
Yeah,
he just was unfit to stand trial. But you have guys like Michael Vick and O.J. Simpson who are not going to get in there for convictions. Yeah, I guess so. We do have to wrap this up. I know we've gone on pretty long with this, but. You have to define the Hall of Fame, and that's a question that I don't think any of us here can answer, right? No. So if the Hall of Fame is going to be defined strictly on what they did on the field, then that's what they have to come out and say. However, the point I'm trying to make is that the public in general are never going to separate the two, ever. There's a thing. For me, I try and separate the two, but for guys like OJ and guys like Michael Vick, it's hard. It's hard to do that because that's not what I think of anymore.
I think in really any debate, I feel like this comes up more. You have a debate and you can't really have an answer, and it most likely comes down to you need to define what you're talking about. But it's just how it is, and that's kind of the case here. It's if you're a believer in if it's all on the field, then certain guys will get in. When they've done bad things, but if you're the other way around, where you're they've been convicted, they can't get in, then you're gonna side on that side of the fence. It's really all that. You just kind of have to have a definition for the Hall of Fame, and there might not be one. A standalone answer. So it's really just kind of how you swing, but
the thing is though is the other point I'm trying to make is that even if so let's say the NFL came out and said hey, This is for strictly people who revolutionized the game of football. No one's gonna like it, and their hands gonna be forced to change it, because as soon as somebody gets up there who doesn't belong there because of off-field standards, they're gonna have a riot. It's gonna be terrible. The backlash would be too insane that none of these brands are gonna be able to do it. So as much as I'm sure they would like to put somebody like Michael Vick into the Hall of Fame, they're not gonna do it. They can't. They just can't.
Yeah, we'll wrap up the point here, but yeah, I that was a really good discussion. It's just, again, it's hard to it's hard to give an answer, just because, again, it's for myself, I don't really know which side I swing on. Like, I'm kind of in both minds here. I see both sides of the point, and that's the tough part. But as for, we talked a lot about the controversial figures. But as for a guy who has a clean slate, I think it really just comes down to, did you leave an imprint on the game? In some cases, did you revolutionize it? Do your stats back it up? And then, go from there. And depending on what sport, I guess that also matters as well. But I did want
to answer one question, because I never so I looked up the quarterback rushing yards. So Michael Vick's at the top of all time with 6,109. Randall Cunningham is the one who follows him in second place with 4,928. Wow. Followed behind him is Steve Young, who got 4,239. Cam Newton is actually in fourth right now.
That doesn't surprise me. I thought Cam was higher.
He hit 4,000. I'm trying to find the exact number. This was last year, November 2017 is what I'm seeing for that. I don't see how much he has currently. Yeah,
he's probably up over 4,500, I would think. But
so it's funny though, because I just saw this, that AP's still in second place for rushing yards.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, like I said, he's a no doubt Hall of Famer if you take what he did off the field. So that's right. The whole kind of point I had. But let's move on. That was a good conversation. Yep. We're gonna move on to In Case You Missed It, and we'll probably cut the NFL Divisional preview because we were running short on time. But yeah, for now, Brendy, let's hear your In Case You Missed It.
All right, boys. So, in case you missed it, brought to you by nobody. So one of the things that MLB teams will do during the offseason is they will often host fundraisers inside of their stadium. So one of the local news stations inside of Kansas City decided, you know what, we're gonna fly a helicopter above the Royal Stadium and just see what they're doing in there. So the helicopter is flying above the stadium, and it gets an aerial view of the big board, the big screen, whatever you want to call it, and people playing Mario Kart on it. And it says, let's see. It says that they throw baseballs and red shells at the Royal Stadium, and apparently they were doing some sort of fundraiser to kick off the new year. I'm not exactly sure what it was for, but quite honestly, if they're doing some sort of fundraiser charity thing, I think they're doing it right.
I mean, that's pretty cool. A lot of people came out and were like, I don't know. I guess they were joking and we're like, "Who's gonna get fired over this?" and blah blah. But I seen something. Yeah, there was some charity thing going on, and basically that was a part of it or something. I just literally seen a tweet, and I don't know where it went now because my timeline updated. But I think it was like one of the bigger news reporters had said that, and. Yeah, that's it's kind of funny. Yo, imagine that has to be so cool though. Like playing on a screen that big, like that's gotta be awesome.
Absolutely. And the screen though, like I'm looking at the screen, like it's kind of it's kind of a thin screen. Like
Yeah.
It's got more vertical height than horizontal. And I don't know, I just feel like that might be a little weird.
Right.
I just feel like it
Yeah.
would be stretched out or something.
Well, you know what's
Right.
funny? This isn't the first time I've seen this. I remember there was a video. I think they hooked up Madden to the Cowboys overhead. Which imagine that. That thing is
Yeah.
massive. I think they played. I think it was like a Make-A-Wish thing, if I recall correctly. They hooked up Madden to it. So
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
yeah. So it's I saw pictures of this earlier. Yeah, I think that's cool as hell.
Yeah.
I like that.
think so.
I think it's a dream for me. I'd love to play it at at the link or something.
It's definitely fundraising done right.
Oh yeah, that's the right way to do it.
All right, moving on to the next story. So you guys may have heard about this. GameStop is going down the drain, and it's been going down the drain for the past few years.
Yeah.
Because I would probably have to say the biggest thing isn't necessarily like video game sales; it's just digital sales. Things are not really. The whole digital market now is just kind of killing GameStop. So rumors have circulated around for the past couple of years, but this is kind of becoming a little bit more certain. GameStop is looking to completely sell their franchise by mid-February. It's unknown it's unknown who's exactly going to buy it. The Wall Street reported that a few people, Sycamore Partners and Apollo Global Management, they're interested. Sycamore would most likely buy it for around $4 to $5 billion. So I want to know, is this the end for GameStop, boys?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is I don't know why you would buy this because it's a dying business.
So I feel like the only reason they would buy it is if they're going to transform it to something else.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about it is, the way of the world is buying it digitally now. It's so much, you can buy it right off your Xbox. You literally don't have to go to the store, and that's what's kind of killing. It's the same thing, It's such an over talked about topic, but it's so true. Amazon is killing businesses. Because you can order something and get it the next day, and usually it's cheaper. I'll give you an example. I needed a micro SD card. I work at Staples, so I could get it there, but I got it like the ones we had were 32 gigabytes. It was like $30. I got one off of Amazon. It was 128 gigabytes for $20, and I got it next day shipping. So like. It's the same thing as that. There's just some companies that are doing it right. They're killing other businesses. That's what's kind of happened to GameStop. It's just kind of the way it works. You have to you have to move on, and if you want to stay around, you got to change. GameStop has refused to do it. To my knowledge, they really don't have any online, way to you can't buy it from GameStop online, or I don't think you can buy like a code from them and buy it online. Like either way, it's so easy to do it on your Xbox or your PlayStation. So, I mean, it's if somebody's buying it and doing a makeover, good for them. But yeah, GameStop, they're done. They're gone.
It's so. I'll say there's still a tiny market for disc games because for all intents and purposes, it's a lot easier to trade discs than it is to do it digitally. I mean, it's still there.
Yeah, that's true.
But and the other part of it, I was gonna say that there's still a market for used games, which GameStop still has. I mean, I'll poke in there, and then like we still have a classic Wii downstairs, which obviously they don't even make games for anymore. But they still sell some used ones, like just some old games. But here's the other thing: eBay and Craigslist are killing that. So it's funny. So I want to hop on the Amazon point. So Amazon, for the most part, from my understanding, doesn't have, so you talk about the micro SD, and for the most part, that's true. I do the same thing. I'm a film student, and the gear I buy, same thing. I can go to Best Buy and get a micro SD 64 gigs for $50, or I can get double that size for half the price.
Right.
And that goes for a lot of things I end up buying, and Amazon's always my first go-to because I usually find it cheaper. For video games, it doesn't seem to be the case very often. Usually the prices are about the same, if not maybe a couple dollars off. So I don't think Amazon totally has video games in their market, but what did definitely kill GameStop was the fact that Xbox and PlayStation opened their digital store. and you can do it right on the console. So I can go buy Black Ops 4 right from my console, and I don't have to move.
Yeah,
I don't gotta
the
do a
biggest
damn thing. I don't gotta do a damn thing, and that's awesome, and I like it. You know, the next thing Xbox and PlayStation have to do is the hard drive space, because that's just abysmal. But
Right.
you know, but for I don't. So now I say this out loud, but I know deep down that the internet and the digital age is a beautiful thing, and that innovation happens every day. I don't know how you compete with this digital market of PlayStation and Xbox. I mean, all their games go there. You know, you know, it's so simple, it's easy. There's really no problems with how it works, right? So unless somebody has some out of this world plan and they buy GameStop and they're like, oh yeah, it's a digital market, but it's basically the Amazon of video games. We're selling $60 MSRP video games for $45. Then I don't know how GameStop ever gets off the ground, like at all. I really don't. It's going to end up becoming the Blockbuster, where
I was
going
going to say Blockbuster 2.0 possibly.
No, that's exactly what it'll be. There will be one left, and then there will be a Twitter account for it, and it'll be very sad. But it's you know, it sucks because, you know, I used to be a GameStop Pro Rewards member. You know, what was it, 15 a year, and then you know, I'd get the Game Informer magazines and a lot of stuff. I still have some of them.
Oh yeah, I was big on the Game Informer thing.
Well, that was the only reason I was getting the Pro membership anymore. I wasn't buying games for GameStop. I just wanted the magazine because I still like the magazine. I think I canceled a year or two ago because the last magazine I got was when World War II was coming out. Like, and the covers are still cool. The magazine's still really cool. It just, you know, but I wasn't using the Pro reward points for anything else. I wasn't going in and buying games. I'm buying games from my Xbox or Amazon. So I don't see a good ending to the GameStop story, but I definitely do appreciate the fact that it existed in the first place.
And even if GameStop ends up going down the drain, like whoever, like if GameStop ends up being sold, like good for the original owner. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, nah,
oh
really.
yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll say though that you know, I mean, the last thing I want to say is that the only thing I want to buy a disc for is I want to go buy the last Madden because I want the Tom Brady cover. But that's just a memorabilia item to me. That's not even a game I'm totally playing. I just want to put that in there.
All right. Well, last story. So you guys may have heard. Well, we talked about this last week, so of course you heard of it. The Madbox game console.
Mm-hmm. Tyler's new favorite console.
So we briefly discovered this a little bit last week, and basically how poorly, like, Tyler was kind of dissing on like how bad the design looked and kind of how the logo looked on the box. Well, guess what, Tyler? I got some new designs for you, and I want you to take a look and see if you like them. So I'll upload them. I'll upload them to you now.
What?
See, that's much better.
And those two right there, they're thinking about making different designs, and I want to know what you guys think about it.
So we'll post this on the Twitter.
What's this first one?
So you know, everybody can see this now. The second picture looks badass. I won't lie. The first picture looks like speakers. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, what the hell is? Can you explain what that first picture is? Like, what those is that like a smaller, like slim version of the console?
That's from a Madbox designer, so I'm not entirely sure. He said they were undergoing some different console designs, and didn't quite specify exactly what the hell that thing is.
So
wait,
but I kind of assumed it was a console, which it looks too small to be a console anyway.
Wait, so I want to point out a couple things here that I'm noticing from the designs. I don't see a disc tray on the second one.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a graphic though.
Right, but if that's what the console is, I don't see where the disc tray would even go.
I forget.
I don't know. Maybe it's
I know, but this goes to what we were just talking about though. Is what I'm getting at. Is that I wonder if the plan is
maybe just put the CD on top of the console and it works.
Yeah, that's definitely how that works. And I'm also noticing. So I'm also noticing that it tells you when you have an email. So okay,
yeah, it says a new email.
Well, so look at the front. So the front's actually not a hard like metal piece. It looks like it's an LED board of some kind because look, it says now playing Project Cars 2. So that's the game inside that's being played on the console.
Right.
And I guess that changes with every game. And I guess you can hook your email to it. The damn thing's a computer. I'm telling you. And I said this the other day, but
yeah.
No,
Consoles
that's
are basically mini computers now.
yeah. I like the open top so you can see the inside of the console. I love that shit. I love the clear control. I would love to get like the clear controllers that they sell at like Walmart and GameStop all the time. They're really cool because you can see the inside, but God, do they suck?
Yeah, I was gonna say they're like the cheapest piece of this shit ever.
Oh my God, but they look cool.
Just for linking for for the video, but here's the guy. His name's Ian Bell. He's actually he's a designer for Slightly Mad.
One of our out there designs, but it's a cooler. It's a fan. Okay.
Yep, and
what? Where the okay?
And then here's the other tweet.
Okay, so it's a fan,
and
then this is the console.
I
so those are
that wrong.
A little bit.
Sorry, I'll fix that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, these are cool. I'm not gonna buy it, but this is cool.
That's
I don't know.
I mean, the first picture we seen looked like it was about the size of an external hard drive, and it was like all lit up LED and it looked weird. This one looks much better, so if they do end up going with it, I would hope it was something like this. But
and last thing for you, Tyler, you can rest your balls on the original design.
What the fuck, man? Look at this shit.
What?
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. All right.
This is never going to come to fruition.
We have to move on. So we were going to cut the NFL predictions, but we're just going to very quickly go over, because I have work, what's going on here. So sorry to cut that so brief, but I'm literally running out of time here.
We want this to be our living, but we don't have the support yet.
No, right. So first game, Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Matchup here of two MVP, well, I think at least MVP caliber quarterbacks, although I know you'll disagree. Who do you guys have?
Chiefs.
Colts are hot, so I expect this to be a little bit of a ball game, but I still get the Chiefs by at least 2.
I'll say Chiefs win by less than a touchdown. By the way, the line on this game is Chiefs minus 5.5, which I thought would be more, but
that's it.
You know, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Huh.
Okay, next game we have what is the New England Patriots hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. The line on this game is Patriots minus 4.5. Bobby, your prediction?
Chargers are hot, man. I'm scared. I'm honestly scared for this game, but we're at home. We're at Gillette Stadium. So we were always good there. Definitely helps us each year. Definitely to be at home. So I'm hoping we take it. I'm gonna go with my gut and say the Patriots pull us one out, but I'm gonna say that's definitely not gonna be easy.
All right, this is gonna be my upset of the week. I'm choosing Chargers over Pats.
The guy who doesn't believe in the goddamn Chargers.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
We don't have time for this. We'll talk about this some other time. I'm just saying. That's as far as I'll probably have them go, though.
Oh my god. Okay. For some reason. Okay. Sorry.
Your pick.
I'm going Patriots. They're at home. They never lose at home, and it's the playoffs, and Tom Brady's in the playoffs, so they're not losing. Next game we have here is the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Rams. I will pick the Rams, and I don't think it's close. I think it's a 2-score game at least.
I hate Cowboys fans right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams also. I feel like they're just the more well-stacked team.
Same here. I got the Rams. I mean, Todd Gurley is going to be a beast. I am so excited to see him in the postseason. You have no idea.
Yeah,
it's so nice, man. He's so good. Todd Gurley, I love you.
And the last game of the week is the Philadelphia Eagles, who got thrown by the skin of their teeth against the New Orleans Saints. You guys can, Bobby, go ahead with yours.
Let me make a note about something in case nobody has seen it yet. It was not a missed field goal. It was actually blocked.
Yeah, well, it was tipped, yeah.
It was tipped. I should say it was very much. It was tipped, which Parky can maybe sleep a little bit better now, knowing that it was tipped, because he probably didn't realize, but he might have thought that I don't know. He might have felt wrong the entire time, but who knows? But yeah, so I feel bad for the guy. That was terrible to see. I couldn't believe it, but Eagles by the skin of her teeth. Man, on paper, I think the Saints have this one. Not to mention they killed the Eagles earlier this season, like absolutely obliterated them. So I want to say the Saints, but man, it's so tough to count the Eagles out in any of these situations. Like it's so easy to count the Cowboys out, but the Eagles are pure magic when they get hot, man, especially with Foles now behind. So I don't know.
They are.
It might be closer than we think, or it might be a complete blowout. I don't think it's going to be in between, but I think either way, I think the Saints have this one.
Moving on, I have the Saints. All right, what's next?
I'm going with the Eagles.
All right, I'm the outlier. No.
I'm telling you, man, there's something about them. All right,
no, I'm with you. I just think the Saints still win this.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, we had to go through that quicker than we wanted to, but we had some really good discussions today, so I'm happy with that. We're gonna get out of here. If you want to contact us, as always, we have our Twitter at ComePlayNetwork. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave it a like. And we will catch you next week for episode 17 of the Come Play podcast.
Peace.
Zach ditched us for extra hours at work.